Thank you all for being here this evening. I'm Kristen Root, president of Hingham C.A.R.E.S, and we're excited. This is our first quarterly meeting. We haven't had a meeting for a couple of months, so we have a lot to update people on. The first thing that we're going to do is do some introductions, just go around the table for those of us who are sitting up here so that you all know who's sitting up at the table. And we'll start with you, Deb.
Hi, my name is Deb Hoffman. I'm a board member.
Hi, I'm Jack Richmond, police physician for Hingham PD.
Rob Ramsey, DARE officer for the police department, also the middle school SRO.
Tom Ford, Hingham High, SRO.
Lynn Adams, I'm a school health nurse.
Kurt Gerald, recovery coach for Hingham Police Department, executive director of the Anchor.
You wear many hats.
Yeah, a couple things. I'll just leave it to those right now.
And Kurt actually just has a couple of minutes. He's actually heading back to Hull for another program, so we're going to give Kurt some time to share what's going on with his program in Hull.
We're opening a recovery center, community center for Hingham, Hull, the surrounding towns. Up in Hull, it's 7 Hadassah Way. It's right by the temple. I mean, we offer a ton of things such as, free recovery coaching, we're starting a bunch of programming like yoga classes. There's a family afterwards meeting, which is basically family members and loved ones of those who are struggling with substance use disorder, support group for them. What else? We got a Bible study Monday night, actually right now. Got a couple of other things going on, but most importantly what we're doing is opening a center, opening a place for people to come and just be in a safe, sober environment, really. You know, we offer, we're going to have a pool table, Xbox, TV, ping pong, everything, you know, and it's just going to be a place for people to come. We're going to be doing our grand opening January, February, March, April 18th, I think. Yeah, and January, February, March. March 28th is going to be our first Saturday night hangout. So just open the doors and let people come in and hang out and experience it. And our end goal is to have it open 7 days a week and just always be there. And we work closely with the police departments, with Hingham, Hull, go out on overdose calls, as well as, how's it going, Chief? As well as work with at-risk individuals. So if they have somebody that they want me to work with, we exchange numbers and just help them. So I think I covered everything.
Perfect.
Pretty sure. If not, if you want pamphlets, you guys can always call me also. Yeah, so that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have a lot of handouts up here tonight. Thanks, Kurt. So tonight we have the honor of hearing from the outgoing C.A.R.E.S president, Hannah Hopkins. She's going to be doing her presentation on her final project, her independent study. But I'd like Officer Ford, to give us a little background on what Hannah's done this year and the C.A.R.E program and what next year looks like.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, it is my pleasure tonight to have Hannah here. And just to give you a little background on her, she's a senior at Hingham High, and she's been a member of C.A.R.E for 4 years. And I remember last year she walked in my office at the end of the year and said, I'm going to be your president of C.A.R.E. I have great ideas. I want to educate these kids, and I want to really take this head on, and she has. And she's one of those kids that's a self-starter. She had a lot of great ideas that she shared, and she really cares about her classmates and really wants, but realistically she knows the pressures they face, and she really opened my eyes and to the realistic approach you have to take with teen substance issues, and I think she's done an amazing job. And for her final project, she tackles kind of a real issue in Hingham, the party culture and the pressures not only that students face, but the parents do as well. So.
Terrific. So you all set? Do you want to come up and do your presentation?
My senior project, I guess you could call it, is about Hingham party culture and having a different perspective on that. So I just tried to come up with a new perspective that parents and teens haven't seen before, and that's kind of how both teens view their parents as far as partying and being a teenager, and how parents view their kids. So how many people have had a student or are going to have a student graduate from Hingham High or any high school? Okay, perfect. What social pressures do Hingham High School students face? Social media and influencing and promoting party culture, I think, is the biggest part of this. Social media is now an up-and-coming thing that almost everybody uses if you have a smartphone. And a lot of this has to do with Instagram and Snapchat and how teens are often posting everything that they're doing on the weekends, and that's not always bad things. It could be anything, hanging out with your family, hanging out with your friends, not doing anything bad. But a lot of times on Saturday nights, you see Instagram or Snapchat stories of kids all drinking, partying, and they're all together, and you want to be a part of something, and drinking kind of brings people together a lot of times, unfortunately. And friend groups and group chats, students willing to do anything to be a part of a group, and this is the new peer pressure. So instead of telling somebody that, oh yeah, you have to drink to be cool, like I've never seen anybody say that, or in my experience, I don't know about you, Maddie, but I've never had that experience. But now it's more of being a part of something. So when you're in a group chat with all your friends, you know you're in. Like, you have a set group of people that you want to hang out with, and they are going to post pictures with you, and you guys are always going to have a place to go on the weekends. You know you're going to always be a part of something. When a part of that something is going to be drinking on the weekends, you don't want to say no, because you don't want to be the odd one out. You don't want to be the only one not in the picture with a drink in your hand. So, and then on to the next thing, which sometimes comes up, is academic responsibility and academic pressures, or any pressure that you feel from your teachers or your parents or people that are taking care of you and that love you and want the best for you, that are pushing you to do well in school. And sometimes that leads you to going out on the weekends and feeling like finally the week is over, the pressure's off, I can let loose and do whatever I want. And so we turn to alcohol, not we, but kids my age, turn to alcohol, looking for an escape. And so when you're in your junior year, I know that a lot of kids felt pressure. You know that this is what the year that counts. You have SATs, you have all your grades pending on what's going to determine your future. So that's when you're looking for an escape the most, I think. So what pressures do parents face while raising a high school student? I took this from things that I know my parents have faced raising me, and also the things that I know my friends' parents have faced when they want to have friends over. So being a social host is one of the biggest ones. Parents want to make their kids happy, and if having a party at your house is going to do that, then a lot of the times parents are willing to take the risk and make that happen. So also, buying alcohol for your kids, you want to know where the alcohol is coming from, so you use that as an excuse as to why you should buy your kids alcohol. You want to know where it's coming from, you want to know how much they're drinking, and you think that if you buy it for them, then you're going to know what's going to happen, which of course is not true, but I think a lot of times that's the cushion that parents need to make them feel better about what's going on the weekends. And confronting kids is a big part of this as well. I know a lot of my friends have had parties while their parents are home, and their parents claim that they had no idea what was going on in the basement, even though they saw 50 kids walk in. So I think that's kind of an issue as well. So if you see something, say something. I think that's the biggest part of it. If your kid knows they can get away with having a party while you're home or while you're not home, and they know that you're not going to confront them about it, they're going to keep doing it. So that's simple stuff. You know, even not with drinking, if your kid knows they can get away with something, they're going to keep doing it, regardless of what it is. So how can parent and child work together to reduce these pressures? Communication, I think that's pretty simple, and that's not something hard to figure out, but it's really, really hard when I know, like, even with my mom, every time I've been in a sticky situation, I want to tell her everything, but I'm like, what if she's mad at me? I don't want to disappoint her, and that's like a big part of it. So for me, my mom being really clear about her expectations, there will be no partying, there will be no drinking, and if you get caught, you're screwed. That was basically how I was raised, I feel like. I was very open with her, and because of the communication that we had, I was never... Of course, I was always nervous if I was in a situation, but luckily, I never really was in a situation where it was life or death because I knew that I could call her and say, I need a ride, I don't feel comfortable, or whatever it was. So I knew the consequences of what that may be. I've definitely had my phone taken away. I mean, had my car taken away. Anything that I know, like, there's always going to be a consequence. And then kids being honest. Because I felt like I could be honest with my mom and my dad, I never had to lie. I never had to put myself in a car with somebody I didn't trust. I never had to make a bad decision because I was scared of what would happen. I did a survey for parents and students to kind of analyze if people felt the same way that I did about these issues. So for the parents, I think it was 72 people responded. So that's a pretty good survey. So 72 of these people answered all the survey questions. And the first question is, will you be having a graduation party for your student? Pretty basic. 83% said yes. So that's fine. 83% of people can have a graduation party, but when having a graduation party, a lot of that comes with the responsibility of having people at your house. If yes, will there be alcohol served at the party? 50% of people said yes, and 50% said no, as you can see, and 2 people skipped it. So it's kind of, I wonder why those people skipped that question, if they just don't want to admit what's going on. So that would be for alcohol for teens or parents. Will alcohol be served for adults? 70% said yes, and 29% said no. So the 70% said yes, fine. 29% said no. Then who is alcohol being served for? Or if it's not at all. Will alcohol be served for teens? Oh, okay. 4% said yes, and 95% said no. So the 4% that said yes, I was kind of happy that they said yes, because I feel like that's honest. Like, if you're being honest with the survey, then that means it's working. And the 95% that said no, that's also good. But we'll kind of get into analyzing the results after. Would you allow your child to go to a graduation party where you know alcohol would be served? 60% said yes, and 40% said no. So with this, I think that it would be okay to go to a graduation party where alcohol is being served, as long as, again, you have communication with your kid and you know what's going to be happening. Would you feel more comfortable with your child drinking if you knew adults were at the party? 29% said yes, and 70% said no. I thought this was kind of surprising to me, because I felt like a lot of parents feel more comfortable when other parents are there, just to be supervising. Will you be ensuring that there is adult supervision at the graduation parties your child expects to attend? So 87% said yes, 12% said no. Will you be having a conversation with your child about graduation safety? 100% said yes, so obviously that's really good. Are you aware of the social host laws in Massachusetts? 91% said yes, and 8% said no. I'm going to have to go out on a limb here and say that people don't know what social host laws are, because they're kind of confusing, and I don't think that 91% really know what they are. But again, we'll get into that later. Will you set a curfew for your child on graduation night to ensure their safety? 84% said yes, 15% said no. So now we're moving on to the student results. And this is kind of where you see how parent and child differ in what they think is going to happen this graduation season. But however, this is more interesting because only 27 students answered this survey. So it's a little smaller, but we'll get into why there was 27. Yeah.
I just wanted you to clarify, who did you survey for these results?
An email went out to all the student body and their parents. So
Seniors, right?
yeah, all seniors. So it's kind of interesting that only 27 kids answered. So 70% of kids say they will be having a graduation party. I'm going to go through these a little bit quicker just so that we can get through it and get to the analyzing part. If yes, do you expect your parents to serve alcohol to your friends? 18% said yes, 81% said no. Do you expect parents at your graduation party or other people's graduation party to serve alcohol to you? 40% said yes, and 59% said no. Do you plan on drinking after graduation? 51% said yes, and 48% said no. I feel like this is pretty accurate. If not, then more people would be saying yes. it's a big time for people to go all out. Do you feel pressure to drink after graduation? 7% said yes, 92% said no. I think this one also is very accurate. I really don't think there's a big pressure to drink after graduation. That's definitely a personal preference thing. And a lot of times people are going out to dinner with their parents after graduation, so I definitely think this is accurate. Do you plan on smoking marijuana after graduation? 14% said yes, and 85% said no. Do you think post-graduation is a good time to go all out with drinking, drugs, partying, etc.? 37% said yes, and 62% said no. If you plan on drinking or smoking, would you plan a safe or sober ride to and from the party? 92% said yes, and 7% said no. Would you try to pressure your parents into serving alcohol to teens if they did not previously agree to it? 11% said yes, and 88% said no. With this particular question, I think that by senior year, you pretty much know how your parents feel about alcohol. So if at this point you're trying to pressure them into serving other kids alcohol and you know that how they feel about it, you're not going to have very good odds. Are you aware of the social host laws in Massachusetts? 77% said yes, and 22% said no. So finally, analyzing the results. So why did we have less people responding to the student survey? I personally think that this is because either students didn't want to take the time to do it, or they don't want their parents knowing how they feel about graduation season, because I do really think that this is a time for kids to go all out. It's when you are finally over the hump of high school and the pressures of getting into college. We all pretty much know where we're going at this point. And if you answer honestly and your parents see that all these kids are going all out and they expect their parents to serve alcohol to your friends, they're going to change their minds about it, I think. How honest were the students and parents? I think that all the people that I talked to that took the survey, the students felt like they could be very honest with it. I didn't get a chance to talk to many parents about it, but I think that it's really easy to stick your head in the sand as a parent because you don't want to get your kid in trouble. You want them to be happy. It's their graduation and you're proud of them and you want them to be happy after their graduation. You want them to do whatever they want at this point. And obviously I'm not a parent, so I'm just speaking from what I know. But so I think that it's easier for parents to lie about this. But as far as I know, they were pretty accurate. Parents versus students responses. So a lot of kids expected other people's parents to serve them alcohol, but they didn't expect their own parents to serve their friends alcohol, which I thought was really interesting, but very accurate. I know that I would never expect my mom to serve my friends alcohol. That would be a joke. But I know that, like, if I were going to expect someone else's, I could tell you what friends I have that parents would serve me. So final takeaways and call to action. So parents and students have a lack of communication regarding graduation season overall, I think, because you don't really think about having a conversation about this time until it's the night of. This is a time, like I said, it's time to be happy, it's time to let loose. Like, parents, I know, like, I'm the oldest child, so my mom's like, all right, we got one to go. We're kind of over that, and I don't know, it's easy to, like, just forget about the fact that it's still a scary time even though we're over this hump. Like, I'm still a living person. I still need to be safe. I still need to make good decisions. And parents are mostly aware of the risks that are taken when hosting a graduation party. I have a PSA to show about that. So the call to action would be, if possible, avoid serving alcohol at your child's graduation party. I think that's a big one because it's really hard to filter who's going to be drinking, especially if you're in a big house or in a big yard where you can't really monitor it. Like, if there's a big cooler full of alcohol, like, you don't know, you're not going to have someone standing there monitoring who's going to be drinking that. And then communicating with parents when sending your child to a graduation party. So if you know that there's going to be alcohol served at a party where your kid is going, communicate with that parent and let them know that you're not okay with underage drinking. So now I will get into PSA. Does anybody have any questions? The PSA just goes over the social host laws and what can happen. So basically it's just talking about avoiding having a graduation party all together, which I know isn't exactly ideal for most people, but you can come up with other things that would be like a last hurrah, whether that be like a vacation or even going to like Six Flags or something as like a last thing with your friends that doesn't involve alcohol. But that's pretty much all I have.
Hannah, can you stay up there, please? Yes. So you did a tremendous job this year, as you were a great leader and your enthusiasm is absolutely palpable. So you're heading off into the world and you're going to do great things. We can all pretty much attest to that. As a way of saying thank you for all of your hard work this year, we have two special guests. I'd like to invite Senator Patrick O'Connor and District Attorney Tim Cruz up here. They each have something for you that you can take with you as a memento.
Hello. Thank you.
I just wanted to join Hingham C.A.R.E.S in congratulating Hannah. That was an awesome presentation.
Thank you.
It was very thorough and clearly well thought out as well.
Thank you.
Coming from a younger side of things, there was a sad chapter in my high school when I was there over in Weymouth, and I think that Students Against Destructive Decisions really do a lot of the good work in notifying kids, especially now, and a lot's changed. I graduated 15 years ago, but just social media component, when you talk about the group texts and the group chats and how easy the flow and access of information is as far as who's where and what's going on, and what people are fear of missing out on and all the other stuff that goes on. So I just really commend you for the work that you've done for the student body. I think that the presentation was excellent, and you raise a great point that I know the district attorney can speak to, is that this is the time of tremendous temptation from the graduating seniors, as well as a ton of just different things being thrown at them all at once, and freedom basically from the grips of high school, for lack of a better term. So what we wanted to do was, I had read into the record today a resolution for you, official citation, so you're forever part of the record of the Massachusetts State Senate. And we wanted to do this because I know that the DA can attest to this. The two best parts of this job is being able to help people and being able to recognize people who are doing amazing stuff, and clearly you're doing that. And it's a citation to you, and it says, "Congratulations to Hannah Hopkins in recognition of your outstanding service as president of the Hingham chapter of C.A.R.E.S, and be it further known, the Massachusetts Senate extends nothing but best wishes for continued success," which I'm sure there's going to be many. Signed by the Senate President Karen Spilka and myself, State Senator Pat O'Connor. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You made Hingham really proud.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And I want to agree with the senator. This was quite a presentation. I go all around the county. I've been the DA for a long time. I'm really old, a lot older than you, Senator. I think you were alluding to that. But it's really something going around talking to communities. I want to thank Hingham C.A.R.E.S and all the people, the police officers that are here tonight, and the people who are working hard to keep people safe in our community. But to me, it really is something special when I see a high school senior talking about the things that we're talking about in our communities, which is so important. And when you talk about the issues that are going on right now, that it said the Hingham culture, you remove Hingham. It's any town culture. This is what's going on in every town in Plymouth County, every town in the Commonwealth, every town in New England. All these things are going on, especially with social media. And I think all the kids, you hit the nail on the head, feel the pressures of what's going on, and the parents do too. And that's the issue. We have too many parents in our community nowadays that want to be friends with their kids. And what I used to always say when my kids were growing up is, I want to be friends with my kids too, when they're 25. But up until that point, I'm their father. And that the kids are looking for leadership. They're looking for people to tell them what to do. This is right, this is wrong. Social host liability is a huge issue. Incredibly important to talk about, because parents want to be friends with their kids. They want to provide a place for kids to have alcohol. Where else may happen there? What could possibly happen, right? I'm going to take all their car keys. First of all, it's a crime. You cannot do that. Second of all, there's civil liability that if these kids get drunk at your home with alcohol that you provided, or marijuana that you provided, or some other substance that you provided, and they drive away and God forbid something terrible happens, you can kiss your house goodbye, because you're going to be sued. The lawyers will get involved, and you can say, oh, I didn't do this, or I didn't do this, but trust me, I'm a lawyer. I know lawyers. They're going to sue everybody, and everybody's going to be in the mix. And the pain that goes on in people's lives all too often, we see things happening, every day when kids are young and irresponsible. They're young and irresponsible like we all were, and that they need that opportunity to grow, and they're going to make mistakes. But parents need to know better. And if we can stop the alcohol and now the other issues you guys are dealing with marijuana and the vaping and everything else that's unhealthy for you, it's so refreshing to hear a young person get up here and put on a presentation like that has put numbers together and shown you something here in this community. I think it makes a difference, and I go along with the senator, and I don't have anything as fancy as the senator, and this isn't the senatorial record, but this is the district attorney record. How's that? And this is a certificate of recognition. It's a hereby award to Hannah Hopkins, a recognition of her service. As the president of the Hingham chapter of C.A.R.E.S, the Plymouth County DA's office extends its best wishes on this special occasion and expresses the hope for good fortune and continued success in all your endeavors. And I hope that you're able to bring this level of really commitment to your community, to your college community when you go there also. They need leaders like that. We really do. And I'm expecting to hear great things about you in the future. So thank you so much. All right? Thank you.
So before you take your seats, can we get a picture with you,
Yes.
Hannah's mom,
Sure.
Officer Ford,
Where do we go?
and Mrs. right there by the podium would be
Okay.
great.
All
Mrs.
right.
Hendrickson, would you like to be in the photo as well? Putting you on the spot.
You know, we're very happy.
We should probably go in front of it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Just a little low.
Okay, look at me, please. Perfect. Speaking of social media, you'll be on there shortly.
One right here, please. Thank you. Awesome.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kim Noble is here from the South Shore Youth Health Connector. Actually, that's technically not the name of, thank you. So we have some flyers up here about upcoming programming. There's a keynote speaker, a movie screening in Weymouth, a seminar on vaping that's taking place in Randolph, and a seminar on adolescent sleep taking place in Rockland at the South Shore VNA. So at the end of our meeting, and of course, information about the anchor that Kurt shared earlier. So at the end of the meeting, feel free to come up and grab any and all information, take it with you, share it with other people. We're going to post it on our Facebook page as well. So thank you again, Hannah. That was really tremendous. So we are known for being incredibly punctual and very efficient with our time. It's only 7:35. We started a half an hour ago. I have a few items here on my agenda, but I would like to give Officer Ramsey, I'm being very casual tonight, Officer Ramsey some time to give us an update on the DARE program.
We just ended term 3 at the middle school, so all the grades are in and the kids are great. And that would just get done. We finish up learning about alcohol and moving on to marijuana with the group that I have now.
So I was asked a question just recently because Hingham C.A.R.E.S has been showing the film If They Had Known at the library, doing community showings. And we talked about the DARE program and the SAD program. And a parent asked if part of one of the components of the DARE program is to not hesitate to call 911.
Oh, yeah.
Is that something that's
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
driven home?
Yeah.
with
Oh,
the
yeah.
kids?
I tell them, if anyone needs help, you call 911.
Right.
I mean, preservation of life takes precedence over everything. And so the kids are taught that in 6th grade. Even going back further, during the summer we do a RAG Kids class, and we go over the importance of calling 911 for an emergency, whether it's police, fire, or ambulance. So the kids here in this town, they know to call 911 if anything comes up.
Fabulous. All right, great. So I just wanted to go over some of the programming that we've done this year. Back in October, we brought Weeding Through the Myths to the high school. We did a community showing, a community walkthrough, and Officer Ford was very instrumental in that, as well as the students from SAD. And that was pretty well attended, very informative. And then every student from which grade came down? Was it the entire building that actually came down and viewed the display?
So how we did it was we just opened up the classes. They were asked if they wanted to come down, and we had a few hundred kids that showed up. Teachers would volunteer their time and bring the kids down, but we had at least a few hundred. It was a good turnout.
Right, and they were very engaged too.
Yeah, they were very interested in the vape display. which we kept a good eye on. But a lot of that was they were curious, and luckily a lot of kids have not seen some of those products. So, it was important to at least expose them to it so they know what they are and what the dangers are. So.
Right, and I'm sure that's being regularly updated as well, correct? This is the newest version?
This is, and we'll be updating you again this summer.
Okay, great. And that's something that we...
Yes, all of the games are still in the display. Check it in every week that it's out.
So that's something that we're hoping to bring every fall to the high school and do the same thing, have a community walkthrough, get parents familiar with paraphernalia, with any questions that they may have, and then also have teachers have access to it as well to bring their classrooms down. So that's something that we're committed to, and we'll be sure to be in touch, Kim. In December, we did a drop-in center at the community center with Safe Harbor Cohasset and with the Anchor of Hull, so Kurt was there. And we had some literature on display. Laurie McCarthy, who is the vice president of Hingham C.A.R.E.S, was there. She has a lot of letters after her name. I can't recall what they all are, but she's in the field of treatment and recovery, addiction and recovery. She's actually one of the co-founders of the Heron Wellness Center down in Seekonk. So that's why she couldn't be here this evening. They had a late night tonight. But so the drop-in center went well. We're hoping to make that a more frequent occurrence. We showed a film called If They Had Known, and it was brought to the high school through a grant by the high school PTO, Hingham High School PTO, very generous grant. C.A.R.E.S was very instrumental in getting that program up and going too, and thank you, Officer Ford. So we are committing to bringing that back every spring and having it shown to the freshman class. So this is the second year we've had it shown to the freshman class. It's an incredibly powerful film. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's about a young man who lost his life to a combination of drugs and alcohol at a party. And he grew up in a community much like Hingham. It was just one of those things. He didn't have a problem with addiction or substance abuse. He just made some choices that were, unfortunately, had really horrible, horrible results. So his parents have taken that, or his family, I should say, because his siblings are also very instrumental in the program. They've taken this tragedy and they've used it as a teaching tool. So they put together a documentary. We showed the documentary to the freshman class, and we were very fortunate to have Allie Soper. The young man's name was Clay Soper. We had Allie Soper there with us, fielding questions from the freshmen afterward. And I mean, some of the questions that she fielded were pretty tough.
Oh, yeah.
They were pretty, pretty probing questions, and very thoughtful questions too. As a matter of fact, I was sitting in the front row, and as the students were filing out, they were trying to get through the stage exit, and we were, having them go out through the main doors. So there were some kids that were coming down toward the stage before being rerouted, and one young man turned to her and said, "I'm sorry for your family's loss." And to me, that just speaks volumes, not only of how impactful the film is, but just a real testament to the caliber of kids that we have here in Hingham, and how touching that was. So we're doing some community showings of If They Had Known. Our last one is tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock at the library. It's a 30-minute movie. If anyone's around and you want to come to the Witten Room at the library, I would highly recommend it. Very powerful film. Lori continues to work with the 10th graders in the health classes at the high school with Mrs. Beatty, and that's going well. She goes in once a semester for a few days and works with the 10th graders and Mrs. Beatty on a prevention curriculum. And then she also wanted me to mention, this is something that, again, it's Laurie McCarthy, the vice president of Hingham C.A.R.E.S. She offers free and confidential counseling services to anyone in town who needs it. And she's a licensed professional. This is what she does for work. She's been doing it for her entire career, so she's extremely knowledgeable. So I'm just putting this out there. I know this is being televised. If anyone has any concerns about a family member, a child, a friend, they want just some free confidential consultation from someone who's in the field and knows what they're talking about, we can be reached at hinghamcaresboard@gmail.com. And again, free and confidential, 2 words that I want to make sure I stress, because the information is absolutely kept confidential. And then finally, the last thing that I have on my agenda is that we are finally a nonprofit. So we have our 501c3 status, which means you can all break out your checkbooks and start writing a check out to Hingham C.A.R.E.S. So we're excited because at this point we've been working with free programs, and there's certainly plenty. We've been relying on some grant money, which has been very generously given. We've been collaborating, obviously, with other groups, but now we can be somewhat independent, and we can start doing some fundraising and bringing in some more extensive programming. So we're excited about that. We're very excited. So keep an eye out for a fundraising email. They'll be coming out shortly. So that's all I had on my agenda. Anyone, can we go around the table? I know you guys have already given an update. Mr. Richmond, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Not at this point. Doing research and types of tests that can be done very quickly for impairment.
Do you mind if I put you on the spot? Could you speak to any possible tests that are on the horizon that could test for marijuana intoxication?
The status of the cannabis, marijuana, whatever you want to call it, throughout the country is fallen into a couple of areas. One, there cannot be a cannabis intoxilizer. It will never work. The reason is primarily that the dosage level that's in your blood does not relate to levels of impairment. I was part of a major study 2 years ago that we did at National Institute of Drug Abuse on over 300 arrests and full blood analysis and full drug evaluations in 9 states. And we found there was no relationship between the being above or below a certain nanogram level in the blood, because the drug just does not work in any way like that. So that's one of the major challenges. So going to the next step is there has to be methods to measure forms of impairment. What we have now are techniques that came out of that study that police officers can use. Many of the standard things they presently use at roadside that you've all been seeing, one-leg stand, walk and turn, how you drive, personal contact, and then additional tests were very positively related to the impairment that we found in that study. Another 2-year study was also done in California that actually replicated the same studies. The third thing we're going to then is saying that the blood is not a good way to get a real good idea because it's out of the system very quickly. That's one of our challenges. It's out of the system very quickly, even though your impairment goes up. So what we're facing is having to look at other ways. So one of the other ways is looking for measures of impairment and then combining that with somehow measuring the presence that's in the body. This is where you've heard about the oral swabs and the saliva. That's good for about 4 to 6 hours. So that if you have impairment present plus the presence that it was in the body, then the laws can be built around that. And that goes to another major challenge. I wish that a couple gentlemen didn't leave, but the challenges we have is with the laws in Massachusetts. We have some uphill challenges in the laws in Massachusetts. I'm trying to be as polite as I can be, where other states it's much easier to do some of the things. And right now we've beefed up tremendously the training for drug recognition experts, which is an extremely high-level training programs. We have 4 times as many this year that we had in the past. We're increasing what's called the advanced roadside impaired driving enforcement programs. It's an intermediary level for many police officers, a 2-day additional training for additional tests. So we have quite a few people who have completed it in Hingham PD. I'm very proud of that. And we also have pretty active traffic enforcement, and I'm working with that. So that the tools are out there to pick it up. The thing is also dealing with the courts, and that's where some of the activities are going. But our next biggest challenge is that people are no longer smoking. Okay? we're dealing with the edibles, and I'm seeing quite a few individuals under the influence of the edibles. They work totally differently, and unfortunately, that may not be tested by any of the chemical ways we know now, because when you eat something that's cannabis, it converts to another chemical. So they have to devise a whole new way of determining that now. So these are some of the challenges, and I think kids need to, I get a lot of questions from actually embarrassing, university kids. If I eat this, what's going to happen? I said, what do you think's going to happen? And people don't understand the great dangers that are going on with that. The dosage level of recreational cannabis is anywhere from 10 to 15 times higher than what we have seen 10, 15 years ago. There's a uniqueness to the different strains as well, and how it's not just the cannabis. There's over 100 different components that all interact, so that each person's going to react differently. And most high school kids will tell you that. You can get some that are on a particular level and they'll smoke. One has a very unique response, another one has quite a different response. Correct? No. Oh, you haven't seen that?
No, I really wouldn't know.
Because
No,
I didn't mean
I'm not messing with you. I really don't know that much about it.
I'm dealing with another covert source that I use, and that's a grandchild who's a high school senior, and I get a lot of information that way, and she says, I don't know anything, and I'm going, okay, let's go past that. Okay, you see and you do know. But the greatest danger is that the products that are out there, at least if they're getting them in appropriate places, there's some controls on them versus stuff on the street.
Yeah, I know that, I mean, at this point, there are so many, like, if you want to get high, you can get high. That's not the question of whether or not, like,
oh, is that? Yeah.
It's accessible. It's absolutely accessible. Like, I know who to call if I wanted it, but but at this point, it's scary because you really don't know what, like, I know, like, there's edibles and there's the dab pens and, like, there's the traditional, like, whatever, but you really don't, like, I wouldn't know what it does to me. Like, I know that everybody reacts differently. I've heard some people, like, they're like, I do my homework better, or I go to sleep, or I, like.
So the point you're making, it's quite a different wide range as compared to someone drinking alcohol and a few beers.
Like,
and that's the challenge we face, is to show what those impairments are. There is a company, and I'm not promoting them, that does Fatal Vision. They wear the goggles to teach you about alcohol. You have them in the school. Well, Intercorp also has a major program to teach or give the experience to more high school level of what it is to be driving under the influence of cannabis. And it's been out about 2 years, and it's a little bit expensive, but I think I can get the whole thing donated if Officer Ford wants to work with me, and we can try some of that. It's rather than talking, but you got to experience it. And they're working in some other areas. I've been working with them to create those experiences to understand how it affects, and would do that would have some interest to you in that sense. So all I can do is say that everything is evolving. We're seeing a lot more. A couple of my colleagues are ER docs. What we're seeing with vaping, with high dosage of nicotine, there's seizures that are starting to pop up a lot more in the ERs, because nicotine's still a tough drug, okay? And the vaping, that some people are making their own cartridges for the vape out of the cannabis without having a clue what the dosage of what they're putting in. We're seeing them winding up in places too. So, I mean, that's some of what I'm trying to deal with, not just the driving components, but the public safety and the health issues for these individuals. And I'm finding that the more that the high school or the college university students know about these facts, the better armed they are. When they see something, they're hesitating and asking better questions. And I think that maybe is something as part of our role.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, does that kind of give you a nut? I can go on, but that's fine.
for a man who said, I don't really have anything to say.
Well, no,
that's
I
all
loved
very
the presentation, and I think that what we do know, and it's shifting, is that the use by high school and middle school kids has shifted a lot more to marijuana and going away from alcohol now in the past few years, nationwide.
I really don't, I'm not like just saying this, I really don't know that much about weed and all of its forms. I know that alcohol is, of course, still a huge issue. In my experience, that's definitely more what people do rather as opposed to
Well,
weed.
I appreciate that, and that's good.
And with weed, I know, like, I think this can go back to, like, her time, but, like, there's always, like, the pothead groups, and I see that it's very prevalent at Hingham High. If you smoke pot, you're in with that group, you guys all smoke together, because people who like alcohol often aren't the people that smoke, too. I mean, sometimes they are, but I feel like you either pick one or the other.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. What we are seeing is that on various campuses, that's shifting. Because it's much less detectable. You can be in class with it. More people are going outside and using it, and more people are using the edibles, so that we have a whole different drug delivery system, and I think it's because it's sneaking in significantly. So we have to fight a war on 2 or 3 fronts. So we're doing that.
Good.
That's it.
Oh, that was.
I didn't know I had to dress up for tonight. I would have changed. I was doing finishing some yard work from yesterday in the rain. So
That was
any
very
questions?
informative.
There's a lot out there, but I'll be glad to. That's why I like to be a resource
Yes.
with Tom and he and I are going to do some other stuff. Okay, we definitely, and Rob, but the high school level, I think I'll show you the stuff. And now that we're a 501c3, my ability to turn to some of these places and say, I'd like contributions, and I think I can get, these are products and tools that are 4 figures. So I'll get some of that for you.
Wow. Okay.
Okay?
All right. We'll get together and talk.
Yeah. Any questions,
right.
folks? No?
Chief, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I do.
Of course you do. Come on up.
Sorry, I was doing double duties at different meetings tonight, so. Hannah, I apologize I didn't get to see your whole presentation, but it is a topic that I think we need to always have conversations about. And, you know, I was looking at some of your surveys, and I thought to myself they actually matched the youth surveys that the high school does and the middle schools do. And it is sort of alarming that I think that one of the things that really shocks me is that some of the survey stuff shows that the children or the don't actually use their parents as guidance because of what we're seeing a lot of problems with kids being allowed to drink. You know, I think I saw on your study 14% or something. That's just 14% too much. That shouldn't be happening. People should just be saying, no, you shouldn't be doing that. We recently did a nice conversation, working with Tom Ford and the counselor. We did a presentation with the Harbor Media View, and that was one of the things we talked about was the party environment, and they had a couple classes in there. It was nice. It was nice to have a one-on-one conversation. So I think that's definitely something we have to talk to, and thank you for the good work. Right. I also wanted to mention just too, I'll just hand this out. It was handed to me by one of the women in the back. I wasn't sure who she was.
Okay.
She had to leave. What?
Maria?
Maria, yeah, she had to leave, but Plymouth County Drug Abuse Task Force is having a Power of the Partnership, the 2019 annual conference, and it's being held at the Bridgewater State College April 22nd. They'll be talking about coming together, the power of coalitions, grandparents raising grandchildren, adverse childhood experiences, high-intensity drug traffic areas, and recovery coaching. So it's always a nice summer. I went last year. It's a great learning opportunity. So if anyone has the time, it's from 8 to 1 o'clock at Bridgewater State College. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all your good work and that job working.
Sure.
I'll sit next to Tom now. He's looking for a partner.
All right, well. So I think we're going to wrap up. Oh, do you have something to share? Go ahead.
Something.
Yes.
Hannah, I so enjoyed your presentation. The one thing, I don't know if there's anything that's addressing this at the high school. Our fourth child is now a junior in college. So we have been through state schools, private schools, big schools, small schools, schools all over the country. And what really frightens me is the amount of alcohol at college. And it's astounding to see. Everyone thinks it's sororities, fraternities. It's right in the dorms. And I think these, well-meaning parents drop off their son or daughter with their, all their goodies for college, as far as their clothes and bedding and all that, and what you're faced with. I mean, talk about pressure. So I just don't know if that's addressed at all. Is now you're leaving. There's no one watching. And what happens then? Like yesterday, there was another student found in Boston after a party. I was a nursing supervisor for many years in a large teaching hospital in Boston. And what would come through our emergency room on a Saturday night? And guess what? We can't call mom and dad because of HIPAA. They're over 18. So I would warn parents, when you get your a copay in the mail, because it won't say what the diagnosis was, and very easily your child can say, well, I had a cold and the infirmary was closed, so I went to the emergency room. Well, that's not why they went to the emergency room. And I think the other thing, schools don't even share grades anymore. We're paying the tuition, we can't see the grades. But those are things to watch. Is how's your child adapting to college? Are they struggling? And is it because part of the reason is the alcohol and everything else going on there? And my last story, there's a school in Boston, and I'm friendly with someone in security there. Their first week, and it's a middle-sized school, first week, 100 kids transported to the hospital during orientation week.
Due to alcohol poisoning?
Yeah.
Wow.
And the other thing is, I see this with our daughter, the kids promise each other, don't have me transported. My parents will be so mad at me and all this. Well, you know what? If you see something and you think someone's in trouble, but anyway, those are just the things I wanted to add. And I would really suggest at the high school, you owe it to them to not just a credit for life, like how do you budget and spend money, but also what you're faced with when you, and like I said, your parents aren't there.
That's a great point.
So, because we can't, as a high school, we can't necessarily plan for what's going to happen at college, because not everybody goes to college and every college is different as far as the party culture there. But I think what's sad is it's planning for that. It is if you start good habits in high school of how to take care of yourself, whether you are a partier or not, because you can party and relatively be safe. Obviously, it's not a good idea, but if you have a safe ride home, if you're doing the right things, if you're gonna party, then do it right. Have a safe ride home. Don't do drugs while you're drinking. Don't overdrink. Don't drink at all. But if you're going to, that would be the things that we're trying to promote in SAD, because even at some of our meetings, we have talked about the fact that as a freshman or a sophomore, you don't know what to do. You're trying to be cool and you try to fit in, so you drink and you make that bad decision, and then you learn from it and hopefully you don't do it again. But that is what I think Officer Ford, we've had this conversation with a lot of underclassmen about, this is what high school is all about. Everyone makes mistakes and you have to learn from them, and that's how you prepare for college, because Hingham High can't tell you what to do when you're in college because you're finally out. I don't know if you have Ford.
Well, I was going to say, If They Had Known film, the subject is about a college-age student. So Clay Soper, I think he was a sophomore in college, and so they immediately address the party culture of college-age students, not being aware of what you're taking, the whole the binge culture, which is definitely what happens in college, and in the film, they interview his friends and they talk about all the things they did wrong. They didn't get the kid help when they needed. They didn't monitor him and make sure he was safe. They saw he was sleeping, but they didn't know how intoxicated he was. So we're showing that film to every freshman class coming in. So starting at 14 years of age, they're already learning about the party culture.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, so it's starting early.
And the SOPA Foundation, the family has a really sort of a high goal of making sure that that film is shown on every college campus. This is what their goal is. Every college campus, every high school. So to your point, kids recognize that it's not safe for them to cover for their friends. It's not safe to put someone to bed if they appear more intoxicated than they should be. The safe thing is to call for help. And that's really the takeaway lesson of this film. It's a critical lesson.
I think we showed one 2 years ago too about a child. I think it was out in Needham or somewhere where there was an old airport, and she went out to drink with her high school friends. Milford, is that what it was?
Norfolk, I believe.
Norfolk. Well, they basically an argument or something ensued, and she wandered off into the woods, and she died of exposure. She fell in, 3 inches of water and basically suffocated and drowned. So, the lesson is when you see if you come with somebody, you go home with them. I mean, that was a lesson my father always taught. No matter what you did, if you come with somebody, you go home with somebody, and you keep an eye. And I know it was pretty interesting because when Tom and I were doing that stuff with the students and the Harbor Media, that topic of what to do, like if my friends call me and they're drunk, what do I do? How do I handle it? And how do I get out of a situation? And we talked about exit plans. And I know that's something I've heard many times. Rob Ramsey talking about his plans in his college life, how he exited a place by saying, I had to go to the men's room, where is it? And, he just kept on going. But he excused himself and left. So, I mean, we try to explain that to the kids and hope it, but it needs to be reinforced at home.
Well, and I bring it up only because, like for us, we've been through this. But, there's parents, it's their first child going. And if you really think you're going to drop them off and they're going to be in a coffee house on Friday night, that might not be. So I'm just saying it's out there. To go to a college football game and to see kids staggering around at noon. And it's just, yeah, sure.
I'm sorry.
No. But anyway, I just had to add all this only through my own experience, through my own kids, and especially as a health professional. It's pretty eye-opening. So, but I'm glad to hear. I have not seen that movie, so I might just drop by the high school.
It all circles back to Hannah's presentation and the focus that you have on communication in the home, parents communicating with their children. I mean, there's only so much that, Hingham C.A.R.E.S can do, or the school can do, or law enforcement can do. It really comes back to having those important conversations at home. Yes.
I do know that Dexter facts.
Oh, Kim, would you mind stepping up to the mic?
Look disappointed, but you have to get up and talk.
Sorry. I do know that Duxbury Facts has done a summer program for parents and students going off to college, so I can connect you with them on that.
Karen?
No, it's Susan Bradford out of the Duxbury Student Union. They do a multi-session program that really targets a lot of the topics that you were talking about, and also an issue on safety. And I know obviously you have a lot of resources here, but I know they had somebody from Boston PD come out because of all the college campuses there. So, and when you spoke about what parents know, I know when my two now adults went off, they both had to sign the waivers for FERPA and HIPAA so that I could be called and I could talk to their faculty advisors, professors. So it is hard.
Yeah, it is. But what I do like on campus, that, and I see it where my daughter is now because it's a small town. They don't have Uber. They have assigned sober drivers. Mm-hmm. So our daughter has been a sober driver, and they get the call to go pick up whatever.
Some of the larger universities, I know in Washington, D.C., another one in Denver, the number of the students who have, like Hannah was saying, they're prepared for that. They carry the HIPAA waivers with them, and they're laminated in small cards, so if they're ever there, that they can it will say, please notify SOS, and it's right there. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was very good.
Right. But you can do it on orientation, college orientation.
I think it's great. The point you made, which I think is awesome, you're hoping through the programs to teach them how to ask the right questions when they leave, because you're so spot on that every campus, when they get out, is going to be totally different, with a whole blend of kids coming from totally different cultures and ideas. And that is, I think, the great gift that you brought to it. You're saying this is the culture you found here, but leading them into it to saying that you're going to be doing this and preparing them to say, wait a minute, I got to think this through before I do it. And that will make a big difference. And I've seen a lot of college kids who have done that, and I've also seen a lot who have not gotten that message. And I think those are, and the consequences of it as well. So that was a very good point. Very good, Hannah.
And stay busy in college, because then you don't have time for any of that. I have 2 college athletes, and you know what? Best thing ever.
Yeah.
'Cause you're playing a sport,
And they have to stay healthy,
they
too.
have to stay healthy, and no shenanigans. You can't do any of that.
Well,
So-
luckily she's going to a very small college.
That's right.
You
That's
wanna-
right.
You want to say where you're going?
I'm going to the University of Alabama.
Roll Tide.
I feel
Yeah.
like this is like a little bit of an oxymoron. I'm making this presentation, I'm going there, but I hope to continue my good decision making at school.
Good.
It's a very good point you're raising, because some of the things going around, the larger campuses have an incredible number of problems. There are students that specifically will choose to go to one of the Big Ten. They'll go where there's 25,000 students because of the diversity there, and that's a significant challenge. But then there's programs within it that work up. Some of the schools have set up their own very, very unique, not Facebook, but a social media where you're linked in immediately, especially freshmen, so that you're constantly communicating with someone who can guide you. You have someone you can communicate with. There's a lot of these things going on that could carry on from what what C.A.R.E.S is doing, but then carrying on to the individual places. So.
Just come back speaking normally.
I mean, yeah, of course I haven't been there yet, so I don't really know what I've seen a little of the party culture. I know that because it's such a big school, it's gonna be like really hard to it's hard to, even in high school, it's hard to say no when everyone's like, this is so fun, and I'm like, I want to have fun like that, but again, you have to keep in mind, what do I have to lose and what do I have to gain?
You will find people very similar to you there.
Yes, you will.
You absolutely will. Okay, in larger, you will find them, or seek them out. You'll see them. Yes.
People with common interests tend to gravitate toward one another. You'll figure it out pretty quickly.
I think so too.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you. This turned into a very interesting discussion. Thank you again, Hannah. And please feel free to come up and grab any of these flyers. This is some really interesting programming. And that's-
Also, we have Maddie behind me is the upcoming C.A.R.E.S president. I just thought I'd quickly introduce her because she's going to be trying to fill my shoes next year.
Is that a definite?
Just
Have you
trying,
taken a
just
vote?
trying.
We,
I took a vote.
Officer Ford makes our election system very interesting for a good reason. It's a
Maddie, do you want to come up to the mic?
Sure. Sorry, I look like I had the cross.
Give us a little preview of what next year is going to be like
Hi, so
with you as a leader.
I'm Maddie Blackwood. I'm a junior at the high school. I was the junior executive of C.A.R.E.S. I represented C.A.R.E.S when we brought the film to the high school. I've started a numerous amount of campaigns at the high school. I've worked diligently under Hannah. I'm very happy. I was friends with her before, so I was able to communicate with her, and I know, hopefully, if Officer Ford allows me to become president, because his election system is that you have to write him an essay, and then he will decide if you are able to become an executive member, because he's had. You could also just tell him like Hannah has, which I've been.
You're unopposed, so.
So far,
It's looking pretty good.
Your chances are good.
he treats me as if I've done nothing for his club, but
That's not true.
I for like a few of the campaigns, which I bet he's shared around with you, but for a lot of the things, like I tried to take it like especially from like a high school perspective, because I think a lot of the discussions that happen tend to actually not include the student's perspective. It's very easy to say what you think a student wants to say, and kind of how Hannah was saying, how no kid is like, oh my gosh, I feel so pressured to drink. Like, if I want to be cool, I have to drink. It's really not that. It is very much like that. I want to be part of a group. So if everyone's doing that, I might as well. Like, I don't want to like be the one kid that isn't doing it, which is a very, very scary thing to turn down and be a nonconformist. But it's very important to do, especially during these important times when we're forming our personalities, we're forming our character. So, kind of just lost my train of thought there, but
So what is your essay on?
so I just wrote, it's a numerous amount of questions. You have to say what SAD means to you, why it's important to you, how long you've been in it, how you would run a chapter meeting, which I suggest that we have bi-weekly meetings. Bi-weekly. One would be a monthly. Right now we have one meeting in 1 month that we go over what's coming in the next month and kind of overview what we've done in the past month. But I propose that we up it to 2 meetings per month, so kind of bi-weekly, to have a first meeting at the beginning of the month talking about what we did in the previous month and what's coming up, and then a second meeting to talk about a specific issue that we had voted in the previous meeting to actually discuss and have a discussion on. Because we've come into a lot of things we find our meetings to be very short because we're not exactly sure what to talk about.
And we have a problem with people like showing up because a lot of the kids, like, I hate to say kids when it's like the same age, but a lot of the people in our club are like doing it for the wrong reasons. They want to be in it because they want recognition and they want to get into college just like everybody else. So like we're trying to weed out the kids who really like have an interest. Like me and Maddie have really like put our heart and soul into the club. Like Maddie has definitely been more of a co-president than anything else. She has done so much for me, and like I really can't thank you enough for all the things that you've done for the club. But we've like we're trying to weed out the kids and find people who care about it and care about the student body the way that we really do, and like we're trying to help other people. Like people think that we're in this club like as a joke or like to like try and make ourselves look good, which like of course I love the recognition. Like I really do. Like it makes me feel good, and like
it looks
makes
nice
me
on
feel
the
like
application.
everything I've worked for really does like mean something. But at the same time, like when I talk to people and I'm like, oh, like, you know, you don't have to like go to a party, or you don't have to like, I make them feel like I'm one of them. Like I relate to someone who doesn't want to party every single weekend. Like that's not fun to me. So like when people relate to that, I feel like, oh my, you need to join SAD. Like you totally relate. But no, I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to look weird. So like we're trying to find people that will put themselves out there. Like we have.
Yeah, I mean, just like we want to be role models for the student body, and I've learned so much from you too, Hannah, so thanks. I'm going to miss you next year. But I'm hoping that, which is one of the reasons why Ford has us write an essay, so he knows who's actually serious about position, which I hope he knows that I am, since I do come to your office almost daily to talk to you about my plans for the club. We joke.
I think so, yes.
In all honesty, you've done an amazing job. I'm always
Thank
tough
you.
on the kids. I always push them a little harder, and they know it. And they always bring great results. And you're going to be an excellent president next year. You're running unopposed, so I don't think it's a problem. So you're going to do a great job.
Yeah, I mean, some of the campaigns that we started, because when I became junior, I kind of made myself junior executive because I kind of just started picking up a bunch of the work. And I was like, so I'm going to be junior executive now. Kind of how Hannah was like, I'm going to be president. So it's one of the reasons why we work so well together. But I started a bunch of campaigns that could really relate to the student body and get kids really engaged. One of the things I did, which I was probably most proud of, was the Halloween campaign. So we're in high school, so we don't really go trick-or-treating anymore, and if we do, usually the parents will actually ask you why you're out trick-or-treating if you're in high school. True story, Mom asked me why I was out trick-or-treating my freshman year, and that was really hard for me. But so kids will tend to celebrate Halloween on the weekends with alcohol and like going to costume parties, and there's just a lot of drinking. It's a very, very popular weekend. So I thought of the campaign to do Free Candy Friday, and to say no, what was it? To say no.
No booze.
Oh, no booze. Say yes to candy.
That was very clever.
Yeah, so I made a bunch of posters, and I love like organizing and campaigning and creating posters. I love doing that type of things. It's one of my passions probably. But we created that campaign, and on the Friday leading up to Halloween weekend, we got so much candy. We actually still have candy in Officer Ford's office. One of the best parts of my day when I get to go down to the fridge and get some pieces, and then he tells me I'm eating too much of it. But we had actually filled out 3 gigantic poster boards. So the way you got a piece of candy was if you signed a poster board saying, I pledge to say no to booze and say yes to candy instead. And we filled out 3 huge poster boards filled with the student body's names. And granted, a lot of those kids probably did just sign for the candy, but I do know that I heard stories about kids that they were asked to go out and they said, no, I signed the pledge on Friday, I'm saying no, which I thought was really amazing.
One of my exec board
Yeah.
members, who, like, of course, like, she has a friend group she's in, like, and they were all like, Zoe, like, come on, like, we're partying this weekend. Even though she's on the SAD exec board, they should know, like, not to ask her. And she was like, guys, we signed the board. Like, this is, like, a true story. When
Yeah.
I heard that, I was so happy. Like,
I was
like,
so
it
happy
worked.
about it because
Yeah.
obviously, like, you see some kids and, like, then I saw their Snapchat stories and they were out partying, but the kids that you know that actually made a difference, it's like those ones that really count. Because you know they actually make a difference, and then you make a small difference with a few people, and then they make a small difference on a few others, and it keeps going. It's like the ripple effect. So we can only do how much we can do, and we hope that in the high school, by creating this program and like building it up and making it stronger, we can create those small impacts, and that ripples onto the college, and the kids learn how to make those decisions, and they know how to react in situations because they are going to be 18. They are technically an adult. I mean, they should not be drinking. It's still illegal, and their brains are not developed. But kids are going to be kids, and kids are going to make mistakes. And hopefully, with the SAD education that we are giving at the high school, I mean, it's not a class. It's not required. But hopefully, kids will be able to take that and look at the campaigns that we're running and look at all the materials that we're giving, and they will know what to do, and they'll feel confident and safe enough to go into college with a clear, sober mind.
Is that your stump speech? Yeah, exactly. Very nice. Good job. Well, that's exciting. It's a great program, and you're doing a tremendous job. Both of you are with the kids. All right. Well, thank you again so much for coming. Please don't hesitate to come up and grab some flyers. And thank you to Harbor Media for filming this great meeting.